Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome to the KX Podcast, episode 14. It has certainly been a while since I've done a KX podcast, but I recently got this DNA test done, and as I was going over the results, I found a lot of interesting things, and I tried to film it and make a little YouTube video out of it, but there was just like too much information, and it didn't really work with the video style, and it may have just been half an hour of you staring at me scrolling my phone reading facts, so that wouldn't be fun for anybody. And I figured that a podcast may be a more appropriate format for this, if for all the people who are interested. So me and my wife both went through this website called 23andMe, and no, I'm not sponsored. This is just something that I did, and I'm just explaining my experiences to you. So 23andMe, you sign up for it, you pay for it, and in the mail you get this little vial that you put your spit into, and you mail it back to them, and then they run it through a series of tests, and then they give you back your information on their website. So on this website, it goes through your ancestry, obviously, so figures out through your genetics where maybe your ancestors are from, which I think is very, very interesting, especially if you're someone who has no clue who your ancestors are, or you're like, some people just don't really know even what race they are, right? They don't, one parent was this, one parent was this, and the grandparents were different. So ancestry is a good thing to know. I mean, if you just want to know about who you are, right? What better thing to invest yourself in? So I'm going to go through all of these different links here. So we've got ancestry, health, DNA relatives, and then so through those things you go over your traits and other things unique to your genetics. So take a listen if you're interested, and who knows, maybe you'll get this done for yourself. Alright, so for my ancestry composition, I'm going to find out where I'm from. So there's three general categories here for me. It suspects that I'm 43.9% French and German. The German I suspected because I know that I have like Mennonite ancestors that spoke German, but the French is surprising. 12% Eastern European, and 10.7% British and Irish. The Irish I kind of suspected because of my last name, but the British I didn't. So you can click a link here to go into even further detail. So it just kind of breaks down like where in Europe it suspects that I'm from. So there's all these different percentages that match me to different places. So I'm most likely from South Holland or the Netherlands, Germany, that region. And then there's a less likely chance, but possible, that I'm British and Irish, and then Scandinavian, Denmark, and then the list goes on. See here, it says there's a 12% chance that I'm from Eastern Europe, so like Russia, the Ukraine, which does make sense because I know my grandma's from that area, so that I kind of suspected. So I guess understanding where your grandparents are from can help you match how accurate this thing is. Okay, so the next point here is your Neanderthal ancestry. I didn't know that this was coming. This is interesting. Alright, so it says I have 288 Neanderthal variants. So it suspects that my genetics are like 70% Neanderthal, if I understand that correctly. Okay, so from my understanding, the Neanderthals are like a subspecies of human that have gone extinct. So, woohoo, survivor. Or at least 70% of me is. Okay, it says here, these ancient humans are known as Neanderthals and were named after the site where their bones were first identified, Neander Valley in Germany. Cool. See, that's a cool fact. I did not know that was coming. So another thing that I should point out is that this gets more accurate if you get your parents to do it. So who knows? I'll make pitches to my parents, and if we can plug their information in, then it can make mine even more accurate, right? So that would be cool. Okay, so now into the cool facts, or what I think are cool facts. So these are health facts, or we'll get into traits as well. So the first link is your health predisposition, so things that you're predispositioned for. So, health risks, things that are genetic. So it tells you if you have variants detected for certain types of diseases. So I've got a long list of things where it says variants not detected or slightly increased risk, stuff like that. So that's a lot to unpack in one video. So I think I'm going to save this for another video if I decide to go into, what I'm at risk for. Yeah, it says here there's like 56 health reports, so I'm not going to get into those now. Okay, sleep and wake time. This I'm very interested to find out. So it says that I am less likely to be a deep sleeper. I don't know if that's true. I feel like I'm just an average sleeper. Sleep movement. So I am likely to have more movement than the average person. So I can confirm this because I'm pretty sure that I like roll over in my sleep at least every 30 to 60 minutes. And wake up time. Likely to wake up around 8:51 a.m. That's actually really cool. That's very, very accurate. I feel like I'm at my best when I wake up around 9 a.m. So it has some facts here about your internal alarm clock. And it has a little scale here. And it predicts that I'm a night person based on my genetics, which I think is true. I'm actually filming this at 2:30 in the morning. So if that's not evidence, I don't know what is. Food and weight. All right, this is a health and fitness channel, so this should be interesting. Genetic weight. Predisposed to weigh about average. So the first time I read this, I thought it said predisposed to weigh above average. And I'm like, yes, an excuse to be fat. But no, it says that I'm supposed to weigh about average. But then it says, okay, what is average? For a 24-year-old man who is 6'1", average is 187 pounds. So I weigh usually between 220 and 230 pounds. So, and I feel great. Like I feel pretty healthy. I'm pretty fast and pretty strong for my age. I think that this average isn't always a good indicator of health. And then it says healthy habits for your genetics. So based on my genetics, I got a list of like, okay, avoid fast food associated with weighing up to 15% less. Okay, so that's interesting. Limiting red meat associated with weighing up to 14% less. Exercising associated with weighing up to 13.6% less. Sleeping a healthy amount. Now that is important, and that's something that more people need to know about, is that sleeping a healthy amount is associated with weighing up to 11.3% less. So if you just sleep better, if you get the amount of sleep that you're supposed to, you could weigh 11% less than you do now. That's a significant amount. And then it says associated with weighing up to 11.1% is eating your vegetables. So those are the top 5. So this goes on into more detailed things and into smaller percentages. Lactose intolerance, likely tolerant, that is true. Saturated fat and weight, likely similar weight. Okay, so what does that mean? Zach, your weight is likely to be similar on diets high or low in saturated fat with the same number of calories. Huh. So basically, I think this is telling me that I do well on fat, like a diet that has high fat or not, which I think makes sense because I feel like I do pretty well on like fatty foods. Like if I'm gonna have meat that has fat in it, like I love it and it makes me feel good. So that's interesting, you know. So before you jump on the current trending diet, maybe you should find out if you even do good on it, if it's even, you know, like right for your genetics. You could go on keto and all of a sudden your body doesn't do well on fat and you're gonna feel like crap all the time. Next up, Zach, your genetics make you unlikely to detect certain bitter tastes. Cilantro. Okay, I don't know if you know this, but cilantro is this like plant that you can cook with. And some people, it tastes like soap, which is pretty weird. Like my wife, she cannot eat cilantro because it just literally tastes like she's eating soap. For me, I've never tasted that soap. And this says, Zach, you have slightly higher odds of disliking cilantro based on your genetics. So that's true. I don't like cilantro, but I don't think it tastes like soap. So I think that I'm probably somewhere in the middle. Sweet versus salty. Likely prefers salty. That is very true. If I had to choose between a piece of cake and a bag of chips, I would for sure choose the bag of chips. Moving on to the next category, we have wellness. So, alcohol flush reaction. Unlikely to flush. I think that's true. I don't think that alcohol makes me blush red in the face. Caffeine consumption. Likely to consume more. An excuse for me to drink more coffee. Zach, based on your genetics, you are likely to drink slightly more caffeine than average. If you drink caffeine at all. Oh, yes, I do. Cool. So based on my genetics, I guess I can just tolerate more caffeine. Which makes sense. Like I do usually need a little bit more coffee than the average person. So it just goes into facts about coffee. So I guess based on where my ancestors were from, I could have come from a culture that drank a lot of coffee or drank a lot of tea or things that have a lot of caffeine in them, which makes sense, right? Because over time, because of culture and cultural norms, that gets passed down. So through the generations, people just evolve to tolerate certain things. Muscle composition. This should be good. Zach, your genetic muscle composition is uncommon in elite power athletes. What? But I mean, that's exactly what I am. Studies have found that almost all elite power athletes, sprinters, throwers, jumpers, have a specific genetic variant in the gene related to muscle composition. So what I think they're talking about is slow and fast twitch fibers. Oh yes, okay, here they go, explaining exactly that. I don't think that's true, because this is telling me that I'm more accustomed for like endurance, which is not true. I mean, I was a football player. I just joined a baseball team. Like, I do really well in things that are very short bursts, sprints. So I think that 23andMe got this wrong. It's got a little paragraph here like, oh, genetics isn't everything. You can do it. All right, get this weak information out of my face. Traits. Okay, now we can shotgun some health facts. Ability to match musical pitch. About a 50-50% chance of being able to match musical pitch. I'd like to say that I have a better than 50-50 chance. I've always been very into music, but maybe I've gotten better at that because I've always been into music. Maybe I've just improved it myself, but my genetics are going against me. Interesting. Can likely smell asparagus in my pee. I don't know about that. I try and keep it pretty hydrated, so don't really notice. Back hair, likely little upper back hair. That is true. It's like my least favorite spot of hair on my body. It's not enough to warm me. It's just ugly. So I usually try and shave it off, and it's a horrible place to reach anyway. So thank you, 23andMe, for verifying my back insecurities. Okay, bald spot. Likely no bald spot. Cha-ching. Bunions. Less likely than average to have a bunion. What is a bunion? Hang on, I gotta Google this here. Bunion. A bunion is a painful bony bump that develops on the inside of the foot at the big toe joint. Okay, so this picture looks very uncomfortable, so I'm glad that I'm on the other side of that. Cheek dimples, likely no dimples. This is true. Cleft chin, likely no cleft chin. This is true. Dandruff, 50-50 chance of getting dandruff. Yep, I'd say that's true. I use shampoo for it, so I don't get it. But before I used that shampoo, I did. So that's right. Earlobe type, likely detached earlobes. Okay. I'm pretty sure my earlobes are still attached. But the way my wife explained it to me is that it actually means that some people's earlobes are like right up against their heads. Mine kind of dangles. So early hair loss, likely no hair loss. Woo! I guess it wouldn't really matter because I wear hats like all the time anyway. Earwax type, likely wet earwax. That's weird. I didn't want to know that fact. This is a bad visual. Eye color, likely blue or green eyes. True, I have bluish green eyes. Fear of heights, less likely than average to be afraid of heights. That is false. I would say that I have a fear of heights. Less likely to have a fear of public speaking. I would say that is true. Hence what I do. Likely to have longer ring fingers than index fingers. Oh man, snap, that's true. Never noticed that. Huh. I think I'm in the majority there. Flat feet. More likely to have average. This is not interesting. I'm going to try and skip some of this stuff. Nope, I don't have freckles. I do have straight hair. Let's see. Average odds of hating chewing sounds. What? That's interesting. Based on your genetics, you have about average odds of hating the sound of others chewing. Gets called misophonia? Misophonia? I don't know. Cool. I didn't know that was genetic. If you hate the sound of other people chewing, that could be dependent on your genes. Less likely to be bitten by mosquitoes than others. Yeah, I guess that's true. I always just thought I was a badass who didn't let bugs bother me, but I guess I can thank my genetics for that. 50-50 chance of experiencing motion sickness. Yep, I'd say that's true. Phoetic sneeze reflex. I'm wondering if you've ever heard of this. It's when you like look at bright lights or like the sun, and it makes you sneeze. So, according to this, I'm likely to not, but I do. I look up at the sun and I sneeze, and it's the weirdest thing. Ever since I was a kid, I even noticed it. I thought it was odd. And whenever I ask people about it, they all like, "What? You're crazy. Why would you sneeze looking at the sun?" Guess it's in my genes. Okay, gonna skip a bunch of this. Toe length ratio, unibrow, likely at least a little unibrow. I do grow a little bit of hair in between that I usually shave off. Super fun fact. Likely no widow's peak. Alright, so I'm doing good in the hair genetics, which is a plus, I'd say. I'm already working against battling with my weight for the rest of my life and bad vision, so I gotta get some wins here. Alright, so what are my initial thoughts on this test? I think it's really cool. I learned a lot of facts that I didn't know about myself. I confirmed some things I already know. I learned some things I didn't know. And I feel like there was some information that I learned that I just really didn't care about. And I wish that I had learned some other things. For example, I've got bad eyes, so I would have liked to know if it's common in my family tree to have bad vision. Or intolerances to food. Like, I know this is just a saliva test, but I would have liked to know if my ancestors are commonly sensitive to a certain type of food. That's what I would have liked to know. But I mean, if I'm really interested, I could probably just like look deeper into my own ancestry. Like, it's given me all the tools I need. Like, it's kind of pointed like, hey, you're from somewhere in this area of the map, you know. They can't pinpoint one place, but they can show me a handful of places that are pretty close to each other. So if I wanted to, I could pursue this. So why do I think that it's important that you learn more about your genetics? Well, if the answer isn't obvious, it's because you are who you are. The body that you have is what you're going to be carrying with you until you die. So, I mean, a lot of us have passions and hobbies, things we're interested in, you know, that might be unique to you, like unique interests. But I find it interesting that no one seems to really be that interested in their own body. And what better thing to learn the most about as you can? Like, if you learn, hey, I'm intolerant to this. Hey, I do well in these situations. Hey, I do well with this much sleep. You know, like, you can do, if you learn more about yourself, it can make it easier for you to live a healthier lifestyle, right? Like, instead of swimming upstream all the time, learn to work with yourself. Learn what battles you can win, what battles you can't win, you know? Make it easier for yourself. So this is important because people have always these barriers that prevent them from doing the things they want to do, you know, risks or challenges. If you want to lose weight, if you want to put on muscle, one of the first things that I talk about with my clients is barriers. So what are the things that are getting in the way of what you want to do? That's what you got to understand first. So you have to get to know yourself. You have to be honest with yourself about who you are, what cards you were dealt. You know, that's analogy that I like to use often. You know, we're all dealt a hand when we're born and brought into this world. So you got to work with what you have in your hand, right? You can't wish you had different cards. You have the cards you have. So you have to work with them if you're going to play them. So I think I'm going to wrap this podcast up there. So this was 23andMe. I think it was pretty cool. I know Ancestry also has this, but it doesn't give you all the little traits and little facts about yourself. It just straight up gives you your ancestors. So it's probably cheaper. And on a side note, we sent one of these out for our dog because our dog is like, we know it's a husky, but like, we're so curious as to what other types of dogs are in there. You know, like, why not, right? It's a different company, but just a fun fact. I'm just kind of really excited for that to come in. Thank you guys so much for tuning into my podcast. And if you've listened all the way to the end, you've helped my channel out so much because watch time is what really helps push my videos into the algorithm. So you've done more for me than you know, and I appreciate you. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. That would help me grow. And stay tuned for the next podcast. Klassen out.